Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Smackdown from October the 14th, 2022. Okay, so there is one note that I want to go into, and this is Ronda Rousey, who had a little bit of a critique from WWE, for WWE rather. She says, I wanted to call out WWE for only having one women's match out of 6 matches at Backlash. We're more than 1/6 of the company, and I need to do my part and make sure that women are at the forefront. Also, I do not want to say women's in the title anymore. I think they were kind of resistant to taking it out. I was like, can I just not say it? That's kind of where it's at. She wants to take women's out of the women's championship. It is the most ridiculous thing. It's insane, right? It is insane. Now, we went through this with the NXT championship, and some mystery person wanted the NXT women's title to just be called the NXT championship. So you probably remember, for probably about 2 months, maybe 3 there, we were going around calling both titles, both the men's title and the women's championship, the NXT championship. I wonder, did Ronda Rousey win what title did she win? Well, she won the UFC. It was a weight division, so it was like bantamweight or something like that. Some weight that a man can never really make without being abnormally small. You know, that's really all it is they have these atom weights and all that kind of. That shit's for women. All right, there's probably men in those divisions, but they're abnormally small men who are probably about the size of a woman anyway. She wants to. Now, I wanted to give her some credit because she did critique in a future thing by saying that she wanted more women's feuds that don't revolve around the championship. Okay, I can give her credit for that, but this was a vlog in which she said something completely ridiculous. She wants to avoid saying the women's championship. We don't want to call it the women's championship anymore. By golly, it's just a thing. Now, of course, this was recorded back when Vince was in power. So who knows what she might actually get her way, because she didn't show up on SmackDown tonight. So who knows? She might actually get her way, and she's going to not call it the women's title under Triple H. But I have zero interest in this concept of we're going to not call the women's championship a women's title. I mean, what else do you call it? I mean, that's what I want to know. What else do you want to call it? You know, it's a women's only division, Rhonda. I mean, this is so asinine that people fought so hard for these women's divisions to really mean something. And then as soon as you get to a point where some people are taking it seriously, it's become, well, we've moved beyond the word woman. We just had this conversation in one of the live streams about how feminism really just is an Ouroboros. You know, it's a self-eating snake. They have become such feminists that even men are women. They become such feminists that they don't even want women in anything anymore. It's a gendered term. We have to eliminate gendered terms. I thought the whole point was to make sure your gender was represented. Now we have gender elimination. We're not doing intersex matches. There's a men's title and there's a women's title. You want to call it a men's world title? It's stupid, but go for it, I guess. But the word women has to be in the women's championship. What else are you going to call it? Now, again, I have been in favor in the past of saying that maybe they should rebrand the women's championships by getting rid of the show titles in it. Instead of calling it the SmackDown women's title or the Raw women's championship, that you call it something else. You know, I suggested women's universal champion, WWE women's champion, WWE women's universal champion, or something to that effect. But you have to have the word women in it. That way we know that there's women's matches. And I've seen, they made this argument before. I think Becky Lynch also made this argument. She wants the matches to not be called women's matches because she feels like if you tell people it's a women's match, they will they'll go to commercial or they'll go to the bathroom. They'll have a negative reaction if they hear the word woman. Instead of making the word woman something that people don't run away from, you accept that people run away from it, and then you tell them, well, you get away scot-free. We're going to try to trap you into watching something you don't really want to watch by not telling you what it is. Oh, that's ridiculous. Because the moment, unless you're going to change your name to Dan, Becky, there probably are no men named Becky. All right? Rhonda, there probably ain't no men named Rhonda. So you're going to name your name, you're going to change your name to Lewis or something? You know, you're going to change your name to something masculine like Michael in order to, so people won't run away from the word woman or a feminine name or something like that. It's ridiculous. I can't believe we in the year of our Lord 2022, we're arguing about this or people are entertaining this nonsense. But this is a new political battleground. Where first we fought to get rid of the word diva, which some people actually liked, but those people weren't in the company anymore. And they figure, well, we can empower our women by going from divas to women. And now we're going to empower our women by going from women's to, I don't know, women with a Y. I mean, what are we going to do here? You know, we're gonna double back to calling them divas again. Like, where are we going with this? How are we going to fix this problem, Rhonda? But whatever. In terms of having more than one women's match, which is another Ronda Rousey thing that I saw. Interestingly enough, I am on the train of if they're interesting enough, go for it. But you have to make people interesting. I'm not going to sit here and rant and rave about, you know, there shouldn't be more than one women's match or whatever, they're a sideshow or whatever. If the women are more interesting, then it justifies them being on television. The number one problem with the women's division is that it's not interesting outside of the championship. Now, you can say that's WWE's fault. You can say it's the women's fault. However you want to go, that's the case right now. Now, other companies, namely Impact, managed to do quite well with the women's division. It makes the women's division somewhat interesting because they have tent poles. You know, you have people who've been there for a while, like Rosemary or Mickie James, and they can garner enough interest alone to do interesting things without the title. WWE does have those people too, you know, the Sashas and the Baileys and the Charlottes and all of them. They just typically don't do it. Now, you know, they can create a storyline outside of the championship that will make the women's division more interesting. They just have to put forth the effort. So when Ronda Rousey says they want more than one women's match or more than, you know, one feud, I can agree with that. If you're going to have all of these women on the roster, okay, do something with them to make them interesting, justify the purchase. You know, why are you collecting all these purses if you're never going to actually use any of them? That's some shit my mama does. She buys purses, put them in the closet, just like 100 fucking purses in there. She probably has not worn most of them. She just like collecting purses. So apparently people who have women's divisions, they just like collecting purses. You know, it's like collecting women. You just have women on the roster because you don't do anything with them. All right. So on that one, I agree with Rhonda. On this one about taking the women's championship, taking the women out of the women's championship, that's just goofy. That's just goofy, soft brain stuff. Rhonda can do better than that. All right, let's move into SmackDown now. So we start the show with Karrion Kross and Scarlett apparently having been in a car accident, a head-on collision at that. And Kross we don't see much of Scarlett, but Kross is kind of selling it. He's supposed to be in the Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way tonight, and he is immediately attacked by Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre beats the pulp out of Karrion Kross. Car accident or no car accident, he whooped that ass. Now, I think it's pretty clear that Drew rammed his car into Kross and Scarlett, but they didn't want to show that. That's very, very aggressive. You know, like I was saying not too long ago that some of the baby faces are kind of weak in WWE. That the baby face was kind of soft. But this vehicular homicide move that apparently they didn't show it again, but Drew McIntyre apparently pulled where he crashed his rental car into Cross and then attacked him from behind. That's a heel move, baby. You know, like that's attempted murder. That's attempt murder right there, bruh. You know? But Drew McIntyre promised him that this is just the beginning. He was not done with Cross by a long shot. So throughout the night, they continuously said that Cross is still scheduled for the match. Earlier, before the main event, Rey Mysterio walked to Triple H. He came to Triple H and said, you know, he's reached his breaking point with Judgment Day and Dominic. He will not fight his son. He can't help it. He still sees him as the little boy he used to play with, who slept on his shoulder. He just sees him as his child. He can't fight him. And said that WWE is his home, but he quits. He can't do this anymore. He's not going to put himself through this. He has respect for Triple H. He wanted to tell Triple H to his face. He quits. He can't do this anymore. So Triple H says, look, let's rethink this. Let's talk about this. Let's discuss what's going to happen here. He calls Rey into his office, and they talk about it. Of course, later it's announced that Rey Mysterio is officially moved to the SmackDown roster, but that's at the main event. We'll talk about that when we get there. This angle, though, it gives people a little bit of a split, because as a babyface, he's quitting, he's giving up, he's refusing to fight. Some people see that as a weakness. I think you have to look at it in the context of his character. He's trying to avoid conflict with his son, you know, and this is a smarter move. Now, it may have been smarter for Rey to just ask to be moved to SmackDown more than just quitting WWE in general. But, you know, you can see that this guy's maybe pushed to his limit. He's not thinking clearly, you know, and I think that that's a complex storyline for Rey. And people on the internet are really now starting to pick up that Rey is an eternal babyface, and punishment is a part of being an eternal babyface, that you're just going to go through it. And Rey is usually the rag doll who gets beat up by everybody. Everybody turns on Rey. You know, he's treated like an ashtray half the time, you know, or a kitchen or bathroom sink where people just spit on him all the time. And it takes a lot to bounce back from that. But how do you bounce back from wanting to fight, you know, your kid wanting to fight you, and you just can't do it? I see why he would quit. I see why that would be his breaking point. I see why, even after his best friend turned his back on him, other friends have turned his back on him, you know. But how do you fist fight your own son? I thought it was a great angle. You know, I thought it was excellent. And I think people having an emotional reaction to it just goes to show how over Rey Mysterio is, how interesting the angle is. And it puts Triple H over as sort of a magnanimous character who's, you know, wouldn't let Rey quit even when Rey was down and out. He decided to put Rey on a different path so that Rey can now, you know, have a career and continue his career unhindered by Judgment Day and Dominic and all that kind of stuff. Kind of giving him a little bit of a vacation away from those people. Now, Rey ends up in the Intercontinental Championship match. Well, the number one contenders match. He takes Karrion Kross's spot. Now, one of those people who are in that match is Solo Sikoa. Now, interestingly enough, this takes us to the first match, Kofi Kingston versus Sami Zayn. I'm not sure how many times Kofi Kingston and Sami Zayn have ever even worked a match. I was thinking of it, and I'm not one of those, we should Google it. You know, I'm not a Google it guy. If I can't remember it off the top of my head, it wasn't that important. I can't remember how many matches Sami Zayn and Kofi Kingston have ever had. And when they talked about Rey and Sheamus never facing each other in WWE before, he talked about that in the main event. I said, has there ever been a Kofi Kingston versus Sami Zayn match? And or maybe they have had matches, maybe they were tag matches or something, I just don't remember them. But I don't remember these two people ever being in the ring together. In any event, we start out with the New Day cutting a promo, talk about they're the longest reigning tag team champions at 483 days. This is very important to them because this is their legacy, and it will stand forever. And then Michael Cole immediately says, well, the Usos are 30 days away from tying that record. So you know where we're going with this. So we go backstage. Sami Zayn is, kind of giving a pep talk to the Usos. He's talking about where's Jimmy. Jay's like, Jimmy's on family business here. Well, if it was family business, I would know about it. And Jay was like, real family. Like he wants to rip Sami Zayn's head off and kick it down the hallway. Anyway, Sami Zayn says that Solo Sikoa has to rest for his big match later tonight. So he wants Jay with him. And Jay's like, what? And Roman's the cloud of Roman is hanging over him. But then Roman calls on the phone. And they start getting at Jay because Sami lost on Monday. And it's blamed on Jay. Jay was supposed to handle it. But Sami Zayn said he got it. And Jay wanted to let him prove himself. But that ain't what Roman said. Roman said he wanted Jay to handle it. So Jay failed to handle it. So then Jay ends up getting on the phone and gets barked at by Roman. And Sami Zayn is like, he said he thinks Jay chose to do nothing in helping him Monday. Anyway, Jay is chastised by Roman Reigns. It is hilarious. His facial expressions are great. And then he goes to the ring to help Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn actually defeats Kofi Kingston because of Jey Uso. Jey Uso, pushed Sami Zayn over while he was getting rolled up and, helped counter the roll up. So he wins. So now we see where we're going with this. The bloodline is now about to start. Well, the Usos are going to re-enter their forever feud with the New Day. Not just because Jay helped Sami Zayn win this match, but because the New Day are now want to be haters and defenders of their own legacy. So, this is my legacy. Yeah. Or however that stupid song went that everybody loves so much. But ultimately, the New Day are going to try to defeat the Usos to stop them from breaking their record. Which I'm okay with that. As much as I'm tired of the Usos and the New Day feuding, the New Day playing goalie at stopping the Usos from breaking their record. I like that. If you were available to help somebody, to stop somebody from breaking your record, wouldn't you do it? I think it would be an interesting thing if and I don't mean out of nowhere. Let's say Ric Flair was on the roster and somebody was about to win number 16. And Flair was like, nobody else is going to, nobody's going to break my record. Nobody's going to tie me because I have no equals. And we just kind of let Ric Flair interfere and prevent John Cena from winning number 16 or whatever, let alone number 17 and breaking it. That would make sense to me. If the Honky Tonk Man was to come out there at some point and try to stop somebody from becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. It's kind of ridiculous, but I could see why that would be important to somebody if they have the ability to do so, if they're a regular person on the roster, especially. So even though I am tired of the infinite Usos New Day matches, these matches they're elevated now because it's literally a legacy on the line. What are the New Day if they're not the longest reigning tag team champions of all time? They're the second longest reigning tag team champions of all time. And who cares about number 2? Right? Nobody gives a shit about number 2. You want to be number 1. So, the New Day and the Usos are probably about to have their thing. And some people don't like that. Okay. Sami Zayn is backstage, and he's very excited because he won. Said he wanted to help Solo Sikoa get the job done. Then Jay wants credit for Sami Zayn winning. Sami Zayn wants to give no credit, saying that he did it all on his own. So Jay turns to Solo and says, What, didn't you see what I did? So then Solo says, no, I was watching Sammy. You can learn a lot from watching him. And Sammy's like, yep, I'm a former 3-time Intercontinental Champion. You're about to win some gold yourself. And Solo was like, yep, about to go out here, destroy these fools, and get me some gold of my own, And I was just I love this because Solo Sikoa being in on whatever the gag is on Jay, how they just decided to just fuck with Jay, is excellent. Because it does make Jay seem like he's the black sheep of this whole situation. Like, it's a joke that he doesn't get. He's the only one that doesn't get the joke. So, like, that's excellent. It's excellent that he's like the guy who doesn't get the joke. So, Solo Sikoa, Ricochet, Sheamus, Rey Mysterio. That's the main event of the evening. Number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, Triple H moves Rey to the SmackDown roster. Absolutely the best decision. People were kind of tired of Rey and the Judgment Day. It was just time to escape that. And it was time to get Rey away from that. And we can always, it's a good way of stringing along the feud with Dominic, because, they don't have to cross paths again for a long time. And Dominic can now go on to say he ran his dad off the show. He got rid of his dad. His dad so scared of him that he ran away and ran to SmackDown. And eventually, of course, they're going to cross paths in the Royal Rumble, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the official push towards their match towards WrestleMania. That's probably when they'll do the angle that's going to lead to the Rey versus Dominic match at WrestleMania. And I would imagine it's going to be Dominic going nuts, probably pushing his sister or something like that, shoving his mom or something like that, and that's when that's going to be like a bridge too far, and that's what's going to actually get Rey to want to fight him. I'm guessing that's what it's going to be. But moving Rey to SmackDown is very, very smart storytelling to get Rey out of this situation, make everybody think that Rey's got a new lease on life. He's got a fresh feud that he can deal with. Everything's hunky-dory. And the cloud of Dominic is in his past. Dominic can continue being the bad boy, getting heat. It's excellent. It's a thumbs up. So, in this match, though, they decided to spawn more feuds. They're doing much later storytelling here. I'm really enjoying this, because Solo Sikoa and Sheamus get into it in this match, as Sheamus completely just beat the chest of Solo Sikoa damn near to death. Sami Zayn comes into the ring and actually saves Solo Sikoa when Solo Sikoa was in the cloverleaf, and this leads to Sami Zayn and Jey Uso out there starting a fight, jumping Sheamus. This led the Brawling Brutes to come out there. So now they kind of got the New Day doing their thing, and basically wanting to play goalie on the Usos. But now they have the Brawling Brutes as, potential contenders and trios, just not to say 6-man, trios opponents, because now it's 3-on-3. Sammy and the Usos, or Sammy and Jay and Solo versus Sheamus and whatever. This also works on a different level because Sheamus is now removed from the Intercontinental Championship scene, but he doesn't lose any of his stature because now he's feuding with the Usos. So, the Bloodline are actually on a higher level than Imperium right now. So it makes sense that you would kind of transition Sheamus out of this position, because he's lost twice to these guys. There's no sense in doing it a third time. So Sheamus is not going to win that belt, at least not right now. He probably win it next year. But, transitioning him out of that situation keeps the feud between the Brawling Brutes and the Imperium, keeps that fresh, because now they can go back to that some other time. Plus, we got something new. Even though the Brutes have lost to the Usos already, it's something new that the crews are now bashing heads, So that's fresh. That's good. It leaves Ricochet and Rey Mysterio in the ring together. Rey Mysterio pins Ricochet. Excellent booking. Rey gets the number one contendership for the Intercontinental Championship. It's very well done. Very excellently done. Couldn't have done it better myself, if we're being honest. So, Rey is certainly not going to win the Intercontinental Championship. It's just going to be a banger with him and Gunther, probably in Saudi Arabia, which ought to be really, really fun. I've seen people saying that, Gunther is probably going to beat Honky Tonk Man's record for the longest running Intercontinental Championship. I can see it happening. I can see Triple H wanting to establish Gunther that way. But most importantly, I can see Triple H saying Gunther is important enough that we have to leave him mostly unbeaten this entire time. And what do you do if he loses the belt? You have to have him either chase that belt again, or you have to move him up and you have to fight Roman. And since Roman ain't losing no time soon, there's no point in shoving Gunther in there to get beat by Roman. Plus, they're both heels. So, have Gunther lose next year whenever he breaks Honky Tonk Man's record. And that's assuming that he does that. Now, they may throw in some twists and turns or whatever, because I know that some people are going to just assume that he's going to break the record under Triple H because Triple H really likes Gunther and so does most other people. But I can tell you already, knowing that there's probably going to be people who are going to get bored with the run and are going to say, "Oh, well, he's not going to break the record, so so and so isn't going to win." That could happen. They could get to that point, but that's going to be up to Triple H's booking style and his abilities to his creative team to avoid that plot hole. You keep people engaged, and there has to be a way to keep people engaged. And not for them to lose faith in the baby faces because they think, well, long term, he's just going to break the record. So that's going to be the next challenge for Triple H. Can he make Gunther interesting enough to keep that title hot until Gunther is ready to drop it? And then you probably got Sheamus there to take it from him, which is probably the best choice. But you never know what they're going to do in terms of call-ups. You also have the opportunity that in April, once Gunther has run through the SmackDown roster, you just move Imperium to Raw, and then you do it all over again, similar to what they did with Ray. You keep Imperium and Gunther sharp by moving them to Raw, different opponents, moves Rollins and all them to SmackDown, different opponents and stuff like that. So you have ways of keeping it fresh, but you have to get to that. You have to get to that point. So it means you have to keep it fresh from October to April. Then do the draft. And then do the draft in the way where Gunther isn't wrestling a bunch of people he's already beaten. And then from that point, from April to, I think they said the record will be broken in September of next year. From April to, I guess, Crown Jewel next year. So that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be tough. And I'm interested in seeing it. And I think that if you're going to break the Intercontinental Championship record, Gunther is the guy. He's the right guy for that legacy. By the time he drops the Intercontinental Championship, Roman should have already dropped the title. So he could go on after dropping the Intercontinental Championship to being a top heel, to potentially becoming the WWE champion, and it will be well accepted by most people because the guy who was Intercontinental champion, the longest running of all time, and all that kind of shit. It'll be great, but it all has to be put together a certain way. Okay, let's go back to this SmackDown thing. Roxanne Perez, she popped up on SmackDown, and she was talking to Shotzi and Raquel Rodriguez. She chose Raquel to be Cora Jade's poison for the NXT match. I cringed at that. Raquel, God, why would you put Raquel in a position where she has to lose to somebody half her size? Why would you do that? Unless you're going to have Cora Jade lose. Why would you do that? You want to keep Cora Jade strong, but Raquel needs to be kept strong too. So I don't even understand the point of this. I further didn't understand the point of this whole thing when Bayley comes in and says that she should have been the choice. I'm like, what? Bayley should have been the choice. And Bayley is a heel. Why would she want to fight Cora Jade? What is it? Why does she care about fighting Cora Jade? Make that make sense. Anyway, Bayley gets into it with Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez and all them. So Damage Control challenges them to a 6-man tag. They have that 6-man tag in which Damage Control defeat Shotzi, Raquel Rodriguez, and Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez is pinned in her first main roster match. I know some people are kind of, on edge about that. I don't think Roxanne Perez is in her pupil stage. This means nothing, her losing right now. She's in a position where this was just a showcase match for her. And she didn't look out of place, but she is very plain. She doesn't have a character at all. Her character is laughing, giggly babyface. And people are just kind of like, ugh, When she is ready for her official call-up, she should have a character. Now, I don't know how it works with Triple H because Candice LeRae doesn't have a character. Johnny Gargano doesn't have a character. There's tons of people he brought back or called up that don't have characters. But as of right now, Roxanne Perez losing is not that big of a deal. But she did lose. So now I'm guessing this is going to inform us of what they're going to do next week, where probably Cora Jade is going to pop up on Raw and choose Bayley to be Roxanne Perez's opponent because she's already beaten Roxanne Perez. And then also it's a pretty good get because now you have Bayley, who was a big star and is very important to the NXT brand, being called over to NXT to work a singles match. That could be pretty cool, So I can see them doing that. I can see Bayley being the choice to wrestle Roxanne Perez next week on Tuesday. It's a logical choice considering what they did here by having Roxanne Perez put Bayley sort of on the ropes. But because Roxanne tried the same finish that Candice LeRae did, Bayley was this time prepared for it and countered her into a pin. So I like that. This is not bad. I just wish Damage Control was over, and they're not. They still aren't over. Nobody cares. Real unfortunate, In addition, on SmackDown, Braun Strowman defeated two job guys. During the match, Omos and MVP walked through the crowd. MVP got on the microphone and said that Braun Strowman is very impressive, but standing next to Omos, Braun Strowman will look normal. Braun Strowman versus Omos. Big, meaty man smacking a whole hell of a lot of meat. And I don't hate this. I saw it coming, so I'm not that surprised that they were going to do this. Have a freak show match in Saudi Arabia. This is going to be like Big Show versus Aki Bono or something like that. It's going to be that kind of level of nonsense. So maybe, maybe they'll go that route. But it should be short and sweet. And of course, as I said, the crowd is going to go ape when Braun Strowman powerbombs Omos. They're going to go nuts. A guy Braun Strowman did have a bit of a problem powerbombing some smaller guy today. But I think it was probably just, him trying to play to the crowd and do the powerbomb at the same time. He better be very careful because he won't be able to just, yank Omos up. But Braun Strowman is a power lifter, so he should be able to have, they need to practice it too. Because I don't want him dropping Omos on his neck or anything like that. But he's definitely going to beat Omos and powerbomb him. Now, that being said, I had my own little glimmer of hope as, guys like Shelton Benjamin and MVP were kind of on Twitter shooting their own angle, as they do, by saying that the crowd is disrespecting Bobby Lashley because they cheered when Seth Rollins won the United States Championship, and MVP was like, hey, this wouldn't have happened if I was in your corner. And they're teasing bringing back the Hurt Business. Now they're teasing it. I ain't saying it's going to happen, but it's being teased, and tease me, baby. I'm all for it. I don't know where Cedric Alexander went. I don't know. Is he even still in the company? Is he still on the roster? Is he working main events or something like that? I haven't even heard him working main event. But, if they want to try to get the gang back together, I'm all for it. You know, yes, we have to sacrifice how over babyface Bob is, but maybe you can. I don't know, man. Can you make MVP a babyface? I don't know. How do you go about making MVP a babyface? I don't know. That's a good question, but I'm for it. I'm willing to let them try. All right, next, Mansoor was defeated by LA Knight in a very short match. Wade Barrett talks about LA Knight being his favorite NXT wrestler in history, not named Mandy Rose, which is excellent stuff and great trivia. Mansoor was wearing a fanny pack around his chest. I mean, he's literally somehow less gay than Hangman Adam Page. Still, after LA Knight won the match, he immediately turned heel on the audience by saying that he didn't do this for them. He doesn't need incels chanting his name. Then said that he's putting the entire roster on notice that they can all get their ticket punched. Because who game is it? It's LA Knight's game. Yeah. I'm like, okay. You know, they're not going to do a whole feud between him and Maximum Male Models. He fought them to get out from up under the Max Dupree name, and now he's immediately got done with that. That was just a prologue to LA Knight doing his own thing. Thumbs up with that. I'm with you on that one, bruh. All right, so we're done with Maximum Male Models. At least LA Knight is done with them. Who knows what's going to happen to these guys now? They probably never get on TV again, unless they're going to get on TV as job guys. I don't see Triple H doing much with these dudes except for repackaging them. And that's really all he can do is repackage them. But they seem to be dead in the water. I still think they should take Maxine and put her with Los Lotharios, which is what they. I think that was that Triple H or was that Vince, who was teasing her running off with Los Lotharios in the beginning. You know, I forget which one it was, but it seemed like this wasn't going to last long anyway. And now they can take a blowtorch to Maximum Male Models. It was a dumb idea, but whatever. Hit Row did the JOB for Legado del Fantasma. Okay. During this was a Wyatt teaser, but we'll talk about Wyatt later in a minute. I'm surprised that Top Dollar was the one that was actually pinned in this match. You know, I don't like Hit Row, but I thought it was kind of weird that one, Zelina and Santos Escobar didn't stay out there for this match. Two, that Legado del Fantasma won fairly clean, and shit on Hit Row, and that we're not going to get like a real feud out of this. You know, this felt like something. This felt like disqualification bait. That, you know, Legado del Fantasma would get DQ'd because Santos or Zelina Vega would get involved and that kind of thing. That's what it felt like to me. So to have Legado just go over tells me like, wow, we're just going to establish them right off the jump. But I think that it would have been better for Legado to actually cut a promo more than win this match. To me, build some heat for this, make people wait for it. You know, make Hit Row wait for it. You know, it would have got Hit Row over because they would have got them something to talk about. And it would have gave Legado del Fantasma something to talk about. You know, but I think that Triple H rushed it. You know, now Zelina Vega and Santos are good enough talkers that, you know, having one match is not going to be a big problem. But I want them settled into a spot very quickly because there's a lot of factions on SmackDown. We've talked about some of them already. The Bloodline being number one. You know, you have to differentiate Legado del Fantasma from the rest of the factions. You know, how do you manage to do that? You know, you have to give people a reason to really invest in you and what you guys are doing, not just because you're a bunch of sharp dressed Mexicans, which is, I think Zelina Vega is Puerto Rican, isn't she? I don't think she's Mexican. In any event, I think Joaquin Wilde is also Puerto Rican, right? I don't think he's Mexican either. Either way. All right. We get the Viking Raiders. The gods speak, destruction begins, and Valhalla awaits. Sarah Logan is now officially with them. They still didn't show her face, but she's got black ink all over her fingers. I think I've seen this kind of stuff before in like a comic book. But they seem to be going really deep and dark with the Viking lore now, which is probably definitely, well, not probably, definitely better than what they were doing before. The problem is that the Viking Raiders are the Viking Raiders. You know, it's going to be hard to get people to care. You know, maybe they're going to change their name again, you know, as a complete rebranding. And that might actually be better for them in the long term, you know, because I think the Viking Raiders has been a completely ruined brand. You know, it's not good. It's filled with a lot of the cinematic match, turkey leg. Like that stuff they was doing with the Street Profits was fun. You know, it really was. But it doesn't fit into the canon of what they're doing now. You know? So maybe they should be rebranded. Maybe they should have taken some time off to come up with a different name. And they're not the Viking Raiders anymore. They're the Viking something or others. You know, or even not Viking at all. But we just keep the Viking aesthetic. And we go with something that is more Dutch sounding. You know, I don't know what it would be, but you know, who knows? You know I don't know. I have no idea. I can't even think of anything Dutch off the top of my head. But something that would move them away from the Viking Raiders, that would make them feel new and fresh, and changing their name might actually help. You can keep the names Eric and Ivar, that's fine. But the team name being the Viking Raiders, that kind of sucks. Like when they did the Bludgeon Brothers out of the Wyatt family. Like they kind of needed that rebranding, you know? It was very important. I think some people shit on it just because people shit on everything. Anytime something changes, they don't like it. Even if they didn't like the original, they don't like the remake either. But I think sometimes those character changes are necessary, you know? And I think that they could be very useful. And I think this is one of those times where you probably should have said, Vince botched the Viking Raiders right out of the gate with that Viking experience shit. And then it never got back on track. So this is a second chance, even though it's more like their third or fourth. The new and vicious Viking Raiders, that was stupid too. It's like they just never been given a fair shot. It's time to move away from Viking Raiders. If you're going to keep these guys around, change their fucking name. All right, change their name, change their look. Now they feel like a fresh act. They feel like something different. They have moved away from Viking Raiders and everything that entails, and now they can be something else. That's the only chance that this works, is that they move away from the Viking Raiders name. That's the only chance this works. If they come back as the Viking Raiders with the same look and all that same raid, the same shit that wasn't over before, it ain't gonna work. It's gonna be a waste of everybody's money and time. So just get rid of it. They can't be the War Raiders because you can't use the word war. So you have to try something else. Goat fuckers or something like that. They have to go a different way. You know, they got to go a different way. All right, speaking of going a different way, Sonya Deville, she's backstage talking about Liv Morgan, saying that Liv Morgan has been constantly gifted opportunities that she ends up failing, and that Liv Morgan just doesn't have it. And that she's whiny. Liv Morgan immediately assaults Sonya Deville, beats the tar out of Sonya Deville, just unruly beatdown of Sonya Deville, and then did a senton on Sonya Deville from the top of a structure, put Sonya Deville through a table. It was the wildest shit. Came completely out of nowhere. Liv Morgan is acting like she's goddamn possessed by something, and it was interesting. At the very least, you know, during this segment, some people claim they saw a Wyatt logo backstage, and a lot of these people have noticed that there was an eyeball during the Hit Row match. There was a Wyatt family logo and then a female eye, and they matched it up to Liv Morgan. Because when she lost the championship, she was wearing gloves that had like an eye on it. And then she covered one of her eyes with the glove and it had like this cartoon eye to it. So I guess they're going to say that Liv Morgan is going to end up being a part of whatever this is that Bray Wyatt is doing. I don't see how you justify putting Liv in it when Alexa Bliss is right there. Like, there's just so many similarities between Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan that why would we go with Liv Morgan when Alexa Bliss literally is kind of still doing the Lily gimmick and everything? Is like, I don't know. Now, again, it is true that Liv Morgan kind of pitched that gimmick first, and maybe they're trying to right the ship by having Liv Morgan actually get that spot now. That she's actually going to get the dark brooding goth girl spot because she loves horror movies and everything. So maybe there's a lot of chicks on the roster that love horror movies. Shotzi loves horror movies too. It doesn't mean she should be put in this thing. But until we actually get it straightened out and we actually see if this Wyatt 6 is not just an internet thing or if it's a real thing. Like, so many people are just running with this whole Wyatt 6 thing without it being mentioned on TV at all. Like, they're just kind of running with it. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It might have just been a way to engage the viewer, to keep them watching so that Bray Wyatt, you wouldn't turn away when he showed up, and not some kind of implication that they're going to be involved in some way. Who knows? We're going to have to wait for that story to unfold. Now, as a general idea, Liv Morgan having more of an edge to her character is a big fat plus. She definitely needs more of an edge to her character. Part of the problem with Liv Morgan, she was just too smiley and happy to be there. Now, if they're going to go in a different direction, she's going to get a little bit darker, a little bit more dangerous. All right, I'm okay with that. If it's going to be because of Ronda Rousey, who keep calling her Hooters Barbie or something like that, that could be interesting. Ronda Rousey, who is trying to bring out the edge in Shayna Baszler, instead ends up bringing out the beast in Liv Morgan. That could be, an interesting monkey's paw situation where you asked for something, but you got something completely different. So that could be new. To kind of start this video, Ronda Rousey has been a little bit more involved with the women's division. I know that it was her idea to give the title to Liv Morgan in the first place. So she has some interest in Liv Morgan's progression. I know Becky Lynch has too. So she's got some good people in her back pocket politically to make sure she's okay. I'd say that, and that's another reason why I'm not sure if putting her under Bray Wyatt is a smart decision, because she kind of needs to be on her own. Like, she really just started getting a solo push on her own. To then just turn around and put her back in a faction seemed like a step back to me. That just feels like a step back. And she should be able to hang on her own by now. Some people should be put in factions, but Liv Morgan she spent her entire career in a tag team and in a faction. It's time to get away from that. That'd have been like trying to make Shawn Michaels a rocker again in 1997 or something. Like, you spent your whole career in a tag team. That's enough. Enough of that shit. You're a solo guy. You do solo shit now. Or at least if you're going to be in a faction, you're going to be the leader of said faction. Not just another, hanger on in said faction. All right. So Bray Wyatt, he had a lengthy entrance. And he comes out there with no mask, no jacket, no hat, just him and the lantern. And then he cuts a promo that fits how he looks by talking about how grateful he is and that he's very nervous now and he didn't think this would ever happen. And he never got an opportunity to introduce us to this version of himself, the genuine him. And that he had a lot of things going on in the last year. He lost his career, he lost his confidence, lost two people very close to him. And he lost his way and he had nothing and felt like nothing he did mattered to anyone. But the crowd, or he just, as he says, you, showed him that he was wrong. Then he says when he stopped feeling sorry for himself, he would run into people and they would say, when are you coming back home? And people would find him and say that he saved their lives. And that at that point, I realized that he probably is going to come up with a faction. Because part of this, the whole thing with Bray Wyatt is a lot of it is cryptic as hell. So he's cutting this promo as a babyface promo about how, he left clues and people would come and find him. They cared about him. They chose him. They chased him. And, now he's back. Then it was interrupted by a video of a guy in a black phone mask by saying that you should forget the future and forget the past, that life is over, and you have no idea what you're dealing with, but you soon will. And then the show went off the air. It was all very abrupt. But as I was saying, that was the first inkling that this will definitely be Bray Wyatt talking to somebody other than the audience. It's a double meaning to it, where he's talking about you. He could be talking to us, the fans. He could also be talking to whatever followers are in the shadows watching. You believed in me. Not you, the audience, but you, the guy behind the audience. You believed in me. As far as this whole Wyatt Sitch thing, for starters, the promo was excellent. I think it was down to earth. It was very vulnerable. He had the sort of nervous quiver to his voice where he sounded like he wanted to cry a little bit. It was very interesting, to watch. But you knew it was a performance, though. Like, that was the one negative thing, is it didn't feel realistic. He felt like he was still in character because he had the character voice on. The accent and everything. It was still there. He wasn't talking in his real voice. He still was sounding like he was from the Bayou. So he definitely was in gimmick. And therefore telling me that not only is he in gimmick, this wasn't him talking to the audience. It was him talking to whoever is going to be in his new faction. So he probably will have a faction now. As I sit down and really think about it. The crowd, of course, loved this. They chanted, "Thank you, Bray." And it was excellent. Welcome back, all that kind of stuff. Now, I've heard tell of the Horror King Vincent Marsaglia being backstage at WWE Raw. I heard tell of Dutch, who used to be in NXT. He was fired before he really even made TV. I think maybe he worked TV once or twice. But both of them used to work in Ring of Honor. Vincent Marsaglia used to be a member of the Kingdom, along with Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. I think he came into the Kingdom after Adam Cole left. So if you're wondering what the hell they're going to do with Adam Cole, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett in AEW, there it is. He's probably going to put him in the Kingdom. Considering the Undisputed Era thing fell through, this is going to be their second shot trying to redo the Kingdom. Anyway, Vincent was doing basically Bray Wyatt in Ring of Honor. That was basically his gimmick. He had a group called The Righteous. And he cut similar promos to Bray Wyatt. They were so cryptic and layered and all that kind of stuff. And he was doing cinematic matches with what was that? Yeah, with Matt Taven. Probably my favorite Matt Taven match is him and Vincent had that empty arena thing. And that was very interesting. It was in that cage match too that they had. It was very good. It was probably the best thing that I ever seen Matt Taven be a part of. If he's going to be in this faction, that's going to be very good from a verbal standpoint because he's very good at promos. I've never really rated Vincent as a wrestler. I didn't pay attention to it. But as a character, he was just like Bray Wyatt. He was captivating, very interesting in how he put together the group. Dutch was his right-hand man when they were in The Righteous. He was his monster. He was his version of Bray Wyatt. I mean, his version of Braun Strowman, rather. So, Dutch, if he's going to be involved and Vincent is going to be involved, that could be interesting. That could make for interesting TV because you have at least two experienced talkers in that same style in both Bray and Vincent. You have the big monster guy in Dutch. He will be taking the Braun Strowman spot. Dutch didn't wrestle much in Ring of Honor. He was basically the muscle. That's really all he was. I actually love the name Dutch. I saw that they were using the name like Uncle Howdy or something like that. That's a stupid name. Please don't use Uncle Howdy. Just use Dutch. you know, or whatever. There don't need to be. We don't need that Uncle Howdy. We don't need that. We don't need that at all. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a rib on Howdy Doody or something, but we don't. Do we really need that? No. I can answer that question. I can safely say no, we don't. But the Bray Wyatt stuff was great. You know, he found a way to say how he felt, but still sort of keep it kayfabe. Because it felt kayfabe enough to me that I was like, all right, clearly he means this. That, you know, the crowd, you know, wanted him to come back. People kept sending him messages asking him to come back. You know, he saw how much people loved him. And, you know, it wasn't all for nothing. People were paying attention. They did appreciate it. And that is legit. But it's not something that he would say as a character. It's certainly not something that he would say and mean as a character. It's something that he would play upon as a character, something that he would prey upon. And I can see them doing that by doing this layered story where he gets a chance to play upon the crowd by, you know, you thought I was talking about you. I wasn't. I was talking to these other guys. So I can see how they could do that and spin it that way. Works into the duplicitous nature of the Bray Wyatt character, who is a seducer and a manipulator. And it works in scope of the Bray Wyatt character because he gets to go out there and feign vulnerability, pretend to be a normal person who has normal problems. And in reality, it's just all a manipulation to get you to buy into his shit. And I could see how that could happen. So, I also forgot. New theme song. They didn't go back to Broken Out of Love. They also didn't use the Fiend's theme. They have a new one. I didn't mind it. I didn't hate that one. I kind of want to hear it more before I make a full decision on it. But my first thought is I didn't hate it. Didn't hate his new theme. But the Bray Wyatt stuff was very good. You know, was it worth waiting the whole 2 hours for? Well, I think the show was solid as fuck. I think there was so much in the storytelling that was awesome that you really should have enjoyed SmackDown from beginning to end. Even the cold matches had storyline potential to them. So either a storyline went into it or a storyline came out of it. And in some cases, both. So this was excellent. You know, SmackDown is still on fire. And it's amazing that SmackDown could be so good without the championship. Same thing with Raw. They're proving that if you have interesting characters with interesting relationships that you can play upon and history that you could play on, there's a lot of different, you know, tools in the tool shed. You don't necessarily need the big shiny belt. You can use a bunch of other things in your toolbox to make your characters interesting. And they're utilizing it. Finally, it feels like somebody is using more than 10% of their brain. You know, so it's good. It's like they're not just utilizing the run and the pass in the playbook. You know, it's the same plays over and over again. It's like they're actually doing something different. So this is good. This feels good. For the first time, I can say SmackDown was legit good. And it was made better by not having anybody come on the show like Mia Yim or anybody like that made me roll my eyes and piss me off. It was good. Just a straight up, everybody who was on this show, with the exception of Bray Wyatt, was on the show 2 weeks ago. Or involved in storylines 2 weeks ago. But they're managing to keep people feeling fresh, which is good. All right. What do you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.